Greetings, everyone, and welcome back to another edition of Lesser Known But Awesome Heroes. And today we're going to take a trip in time. Yes, we're going back to World War II. And today I'm going to be talking about probably one of my new favorite DC Comics World War II heroes, but also a very iconic World War II hero that sadly a lot of casual audiences probably don't know about. So today I took it upon myself. Today I'm going to introduce you all to Sergeant Frank Rock, or simply Sergeant Rock. Now, Sergeant Rock debuted. Sorry about that, I scratched my mic accidentally. His first appearance was Our Army at War number 83 in June of 1959. And he was created by Robert, I can never pronounce his name, Robert Kanier, I can't, but he's pretty prominent, like, late Golden Age to, like, dominant Silver Age writer. He was also drawn by Joe Kubert. And he was an infantry non-commissioned officer in World War II. The prototype for Sergeant Rock himself actually appeared in GI Combat number 68 in January of 1959. His rank was not given in this story. Instead, he was merely called The Rock. And to give you guys a basic backstory, Sergeant Rock was actually a former steel worker who later became a horrendous prize fighter, but he was known for never giving up. Even when he had been beaten down, even when he was knocked out with his eyes open, Rock would always still stand up and would always utter the phrase, "Come on, is that the best shot that you got?" He goes, "Come on and fight." This tenacity, this intestinal fortitude and tenacity would actually give Rock an edge on the battlefields of World War II, because practically he would become feared by a lot of enemy soldiers as being fearless and damn near unstoppable, and he would become the sergeant of one of the military's most, shall we say, suicidal frontline infantry units called Easy Company. And it was in Easy Company that Sergeant Rock would eventually lead the unit into becoming one of the most famous infantry units of World War II in the DC universe. And they would always call him The Rock, and a lot of people said that when Sergeant Rock went down, Easy Company would go down. This is a guy, to basically give you his personality, he was like, I guess you could say, the tough Brooklynite type guy. Nothing really bothered him. Very straight-laced, very tight-assed. But he kept to himself. But internally, he cared for his guys. But on the outside, he was known as The Rock because he wasn't a very emotional man. Let's put it that way. He pretty much, if somebody, like, there was one issue where a guy was talking about, how women in war don't mix. And that, soldiers needed to stay focused, otherwise they were going to die. And Rock has done, actually, some pretty damn impressive things. He survived being blown by, like, a C3 explosion of a bridge. He was actually thrown off of it after having his leg pinned down. He actually used his shoulder to actually hoist, an MG-42 up into the air so that another soldier of Easy Company could shoot down enemy fighter jets. Sergeant Rock pretty much was like the everyman. If I had to compare him to one character, very easily I would compare him to Steve Rogers, Captain America, because during this time in the DC universe, during the World War II timeline, America needed a hero, and Sergeant Rock became pretty much an icon for the military during World War II. And he would have many, many different soldiers in Easy Company. Junior, Ice Cream Soldier, Bulldozer. But Rock was always the main focus of the GI Combat and Our Army at War storylines. And he became actually his popularity and reception became so well received in the Silver Age that they actually made a G.I. Joe action figure based on him. And later on in the DCU, during the Our Worlds at War storyline, when Imperiex attacked Earth, by then Sergeant Rock had already retired or had, took a desk job as a general. However, Sergeant Rock, during this late part of his life, he would be one of two or three major people that would sacrifice his life to be able to try to stop Imperiex, let alone crack his armor. If you don't know what I mean, go to my Imperiex video that I did for my Supervillains Explored, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But Sergeant Rock, pretty much, to summarize it up, this is a guy who had no superpowers and was fueled only by his guts and tenacity. And this guy is an example to all the other heroes on just exactly... Sorry about that, I got cut off there. But he showed all the other heroes during the Our Worlds at War storyline how it's done. He proved to Batman, Superman, and many others that you don't need superpowers, you don't need to fly, you don't need to be super intelligent, have gadgets. All the things that we see these superheroes have. The only things that Frank Rock had was his guts, his tenacity, his iron will, and his determination to never give up, even in the face of insurmountable odds. And so with that, I proudly salute Sergeant Rock. He is sadly he is a very obscure and very unknown character to a lot of the new comic book generational readers. But nevertheless, to those of us who know of Sergeant Rock, he is arguably one of the most awesome World War II heroes ever.